The years had passed quietly at Thrushcross Grange, but behind the walls of peace, a storm was quietly forming. Catherine's daughter, young Cathy, now stood at the threshold of womanhood, bright-eyed, quick-witted, and restlessly curious. She bore her mother's fierce spirit and her father, Edgar's refined grace. But something was missing. Edgar Linton, still mourning his lost Catherine, had raised Cathy in comfort, but also in silence. He never spoke of Wuthering Heights, never mentioned the name Heathcliff, and in Cathy's world, that silence became a mystery. "Why do the moors feel like they're calling to me?" she whispered once to Nellie. Nellie Dean, ever the keeper of stories, only smiled sadly. "Some winds carry memories, child. Best not chase them." But Cathy did chase them. One misty afternoon, Cathy rode farther than she ever had. The wind pulled at her cloak. The hills rolled endlessly until she came upon a crumbling stone wall. Beyond it stood a worn-down house, black against the gray sky. Wuthering Heights. She dismounted and stepped closer, drawn by something she couldn't name. That's when she saw him, a boy, or perhaps a man. Tall, rough, shirt half-tucked, arms scraped from labor. He was trying to repair a fence, but looked up when he heard her approach. Their eyes met. Two strangers, tied by blood, yet unaware of their fates. "Who are you?" she asked. "Hareton Earnshaw," he replied gruffly. Cathy tilted her head. "I've never heard that name." "And I never heard yours," he snapped back. There was tension, but also fascination. Cathy returned the next day, and the next. Each time, Hareton met her with confusion and caution. He wasn't used to kindness. He wasn't used to anyone looking at him with curiosity, not pity. They argued, they laughed, they talked about books, though Hareton couldn't read well. So Cathy began teaching him, and something gentle bloomed between them. But Wuthering Heights had never been a place for gentle things. Behind shuttered windows, Heathcliff watched. Older now, harder, haunted. His face barely changed as he stared at the pair walking on the moor. "It's happening again," he whispered to himself. Two souls, drawn together. But this time, I decide the ending. Heathcliff had plans. He always had plans, and now he had Linton, his sickly, pale, whimpering son, the product of a marriage born not of love, but punishment. Heathcliff did not love Linton. He barely tolerated him, but Linton was useful. If he married Cathy, Heathcliff would inherit Edgar's fortune, and once again, Wuthering Heights would swallow Thrushcross Grange whole. Meanwhile, Cathy's father began to suspect something was changing in his daughter. She had grown quiet, distracted, dreamy-eyed. When he learned she had been to Wuthering Heights, he was furious. "That place is cursed," Edgar warned. "It killed your mother. It will kill you too." But Cathy, like her mother before her, was not easily tamed. "You can't lock me in this house forever," she said. "You can't hide the truth." And far away, as dusk fell over the moors, Hareton stood alone at the gate, a book in his hands, the one Cathy had given him. He ran his fingers across the letters, trying to remember them. He smiled, but only for a moment, because in the shadows behind him, Heathcliff's eyes were watching, and his heart, twisted by years of grief, was preparing the final act. Two young hearts have met, But in the world of Wuthering Heights, even love is never simple. The wind howled louder over the moors. The days turned colder, and somewhere between longing and loneliness, Kathy stood at a crossroad she could not see. She still thought of Hareton, his rough hands, his quiet pride, his hidden warmth. She missed the wild freedom of the hills, the way he looked at her, not as a Linton, but as her. But her father, Edgar, had grown ill. His face was pale, his strength fading fast. He begged her, "Promise me, Kathy, never return to that house. Never trust Heathcliff." She nodded, but in her heart, she wasn't sure. One day, a letter arrived. It was clumsy and misspelled, but Kathy recognized the effort. It was from Linton Heathcliff, her cousin, the boy she had never truly known. "Please come see me. I'm so lonely. I'm sick. Father is cruel. I need you." Kathy's heart ached. She showed it to Nellie. "He's just a child," Kathy said. "He's dying. I have to see him." Nellie hesitated. "That's what Heathcliff wants, child. He plays with hearts like cards." But Kathy had already decided. The next day, Kathy and Nellie rode out to Wuthering Heights. The house loomed darker than ever. Vines twisted over the stone. The windows seemed like watchful eyes. Inside, Linton Heathcliff sat by the fire, pale as milk, coughing weakly. He looked up at Kathy and smiled, a thin, manipulative smile. "I knew you'd come." Kathy sat beside him. At first, she was gentle. She fed him soup, read to him, held his hand when he trembled. He seemed fragile, sweet, innocent, but behind the coughs and sad eyes, something else stirred. Over time, Linton began to change. He grew demanding, jealous. He pouted when Kathy laughed, clung to her with trembling hands, spoke poison against Hareton. "He's a brute," Linton whispered. "You belong here, with me." Kathy was confused. Linton was no lover, but Heathcliff had forced them together. And Kathy didn't know it yet, but Heathcliff's true goal wasn't just love. It was control. Heathcliff wanted the Grange. He wanted revenge. And Kathy was the final piece on his board. He told Linton, "Win her, marry her, or die trying." Linton obeyed, not out of love, but fear. Then came the moment Heathcliff had waited for. He tricked Kathy and Nellie into visiting again. But this time, he locked them inside. "You don't leave," he said coldly. "Not until she agrees to marry my son." Kathy was stunned. "You can't make me." "I can," Heathcliff snarled. "And I will," Nellie protested, begged. But Heathcliff had become something inhuman, a man hollowed out by pain, consumed by vengeance. Kathy wept, not for herself, but for her father, dying without her. Days passed. Kathy, desperate, agreed to the marriage, only to escape, to return to her father's side. She married Linton in that cursed house. And Heathcliff, victorious, smiled for the first time in years. Now, it's done. She returned to the Grange just in time. Edgar, lying weak in bed, held her hand. He smiled faintly. "You look like her." She kissed his forehead, and hours later, Edgar Linton died in peace, unaware of the truth. But peace did not last. Back at Wuthering Heights, Kathy now lived as Linton's wife, yet there was no love, only silence, only cold days, and colder nights. Hareton tried to speak with her once, but she turned away, bitter and ashamed. She had chosen duty over heart, and now Heathcliff had won. But victory can be lonely, and even Heathcliff began to feel it. A strange emptiness growing where revenge had once burned. In the stillness of night, he sometimes swore he could hear Catherine's voice in the wind. "You loved me once," it seemed to whisper. "But what have you become? Love, revenge, death, and now a dangerous silence." Darkness had settled permanently over Wuthering Heights, not the kind that comes with night, but the kind that clings to the soul. Kathy, now trapped in a marriage of duty, moved through the halls like a shadow. Linton, her husband in name only, was wasting away, his body frail, his heart weaker still, and his spirit poisoned by his father. "Why won't you love me?" he whispered once. "I gave you everything." "You gave me a cage," Kathy replied, turning away. Meanwhile, Hareton Earnshaw kept his distance. Once bold and defiant, he now watched her from afar. He heard her footsteps. He noticed the sorrow in her eyes, but he didn't speak. She was a Linton. He was an Earnshaw, raised like a servant. But one day, something changed. It was in the library, a cold, forgotten room, filled with dusty books no one touched anymore. Kathy entered, escaping from Linton's suffocating presence. She ran her fingers along the spines, remembering a time she used to laugh. Hareton stepped in quietly, unsure whether to leave. They stood there, silent, for a moment too long. "Do you still read?" Kathy asked softly. "I try," Hareton said, embarrassed. "Still not much good at it." She smiled, the first real smile in months. "Then let me help." They met again the next day, and the day after. He brought her a tattered book. She corrected his reading gently. Sometimes they argued, like old times. Sometimes they just sat in quiet companionship. The ice was melting, but upstairs Linton lay dying. His breathing rattled like dead leaves in the wind. And still, Heathcliff showed no warmth. He watched his son fade with a gaze cold and detached. "You've served your purpose," he muttered. "Now go." Linton died in the night, alone, and with his death, Kathy became Heathcliff's property. She had no husband, no rights, no escape. But Heathcliff was changing too. He walked the halls like a man haunted. He stopped eating, stopped speaking to the others. Once obsessed with revenge, he now found no pleasure in it. One night, Nellie heard him whisper into the fire, "Catherine, where are you? Why won't you speak to me anymore?" And then, silence. Kathy and Hareton grew closer. She taught him to read poetry. He brought her flowers from the moors. Laughter returned in whispers. "You're not like the others," Kathy told him. "I'm not sure what I am," Hareton said, "but I know I feel alive when I'm near you." She reached for his hand, and this time he didn't pull away. But Wuthering Heights doesn't forgive love so easily. One stormy night, Heathcliff found them together, not touching, not speaking, just smiling. His eyes burned with something deeper than rage, regret, jealousy, sorrow. "Leave," he told Hareton. Now, Hareton stared back. For the first time, he didn't move. No, he said. The word echoed through the house like thunder. That night, Heathcliff stood alone in the hallway. He touched the peeling wall. He closed his eyes and imagined Catherine's hand in his. He whispered, "I see your face in hers. I hear your voice in the wind, but I can't feel you. Not anymore." The house groaned with age. In the darkness, a window shattered on its own, and somewhere in the silence, a woman's cry echoed through the walls. Love is blooming again, but in a house built on ghosts and grief, can it survive?